At the beginning of the movie, we learn about the collapse of the financial system and the depreciation of government securities. Gangs terrorize the streets and also sell children to a criminal organization led by Amir. A black SUV drives into a guarded and abandoned area. A man named Kratsov pulls a dressed-up girl out of the vehicle, who can barely stand on her feet. After that, the criminal drags her into the elevator and quarrels with an elderly woman who condemns his behavior. Unexpectedly, the heroine pulls a gun out of her purse and destroys the man, asking him to say hello to Amir. Sava leaves the place of the crime and reflects on herself. Her father was a policeman, but Amir destroyed him, and so now the girl is eager to avenge her father. The action moves to the streets of the New World. Dirty, ragged children are attacked by the same unkempt mercenaries of Amir. This world is full of chaos and crime reigns in it. Police officer Karl Acker ignores most of the mayhem and gets to the scene. Detective Prinsloo tells him that it is the third dealer recently to lose his life. Some of the banned weapons used only by Secret Service agents were found at the scene. Prinsloo assumes that one of them decided to become a shadow protector, but Karl reminds him that even that is illegal in this world. Meanwhile, Sava returns home and washes up, tormented by heavy memories of the past. Karl comes to visit the girl. The man scolds the heroine for leaving a witness and putting herself in danger, and also gives her pills to calm her nerves. Sava reports that in the phone, Kratsova saw information about an upcoming meeting with Thornhill. Criminals buy girls here and supply Amir. The heroine says that this is their chance. Karl does not come to love this idea, and says that Sava is addicted, but not to medication, but from the desire for revenge. After a while, the heroine visits Thornhill and reports that she is ready to cooperate with them. The man is surprised to learn that the girl came by Kratsov, since after his departure from life, the contacts of all the girls promised to Amir were lost, as well as the money. Kratsov's partner, Yeppe, is responsible for this. To test Sava for suitability, she is sent to Clive. The heroine brings the man to complete delight, and then takes his life with the help of a weapon hidden under the clothes. Leaving the room, Sava destroys the guard, and afterwards tries to find out from Yeppe when the delivery of the girls to Amir will be organized. However, the man manages to escape, but our heroine follows him. Unexpectedly, a guy named Oburi approaches Sawa. He warns that you should not use ampules so often, as they erase memories, even pleasant and bright ones. The guy tries to explain that the heroine has already forgotten the faces of her parents, and revenge on Amir will not bring them back. Oburi admits that he knew them, and sets up a meeting for the girl at the old movie theater. The heroine does not want to believe him, and even less to get off the ampules since the gang's territory is located there. Sava is sure that the guy will just turn her in. Back home, the heroine looks at a torn family photo and tries to remember her parents' faces. Sava tries not to look at the ampules when Karl enters the apartment. The man criticizes the heroine for what happened with Clive, believing that Amir is now unattainable for them. Sava thanks Karl for helping her, since he and her father were partners. The heroine doesn't hold back, though, and uses the ampule to escape from painful memories. Sawa arrives at Jappi's supposed apartment, but is confronted there by an enraged Lila, who is doing terrible things. The heroine notices a little girl named Nina in the apartment, and tries to help her escape. However, a chase begins after them, during which Sawa loses consciousness. Detective Prinsloo appears on the scene with his team. Karl meets Captain Reinhag, the head of the Secret Service. It turns out that a guy named Pillai, whose apartment Sava visited, was actually a secret agent and helped steal money from Kratsov, as well as rescue young girls. Reinhag gives Karl orders to find the girl who destroyed Thornhill. Meanwhile, Sawa wakes up in the Oburi house. Hearing about her parents, the girl tries to escape. Oburi follows the heroine and criticizes her for running away since she hasn't used ampules in a while. Sawa blurts out that she dreams of the day she forgets herself. Oburi catches up with the girl again and says he knows where Nina is. Sawa and her partner make their way past the gangs that are supposed to be supplying the girls to Amir. The heroes manage to find Nina, but Layla shows up unexpectedly. Sawa gets into a violent fight with her. Layla calls on her partners for help, and Oburi realizes that he is the one who will have to deal with them. Sawa's confrontation becomes increasingly fierce. Oburi escapes with the rescued girls and then picks up the heroine fleeing from pursuit. However, during the trip, Sawa senses that the environment is becoming too much like a family, and so escapes. Meanwhile, Carl examines the camera footage to see who took the heroine away from the scene. Sava infiltrates the club, where presumably all of Amir's traffickers will gather. In the restroom, the girl changes into a more revealing outfit, wanting to hide her identity. The heroine goes up to the second floor and hears the live goods being transacted. Sava hides in the restroom and then comes out after changing into a man. This confuses the guards, which the heroine actively uses. The girl's target is a merchant named Staggy, about whom Lila spoke. Sava has him in her sights when another guard suddenly appears in the restroom. His attack shatters an earring she treasured. However, Sava manages to disarm the guard, and she returns to the pursuit of Staggy. From the man, the heroine learns that she needs to get to the helipad tonight. Sawa manages to destroy Staggy, taking damage in the process. Meanwhile, Oburi gets Nina and another girl to safety. However, on the way out of the building, the guy is confronted by Lila and her partner, who demand their merchandise be returned to them. Detective Prinsloo and Clark arrive at the scene where the Staggy tragedy occurred. Sava's partner takes her earrings from the crime scene to throw the cops off the trail. Meanwhile, the heroine has an eerie dream in which she recalls the tragedy that happened to her parents. After coming to her senses, Sawa prepares for a trip to the helipad. The heroine manages to sneak in, but is disarmed and disabled. Upon waking up, Sawa sees a strange kitchen in front of her. A voice from the darkness informs her that it is very difficult to hide in a load of boys when you are a girl. It was misinformation that led to this unexpected turn of events. Sawa realizes that she has finally met Amir, but not quite in the way she expected. The man reveals that selling kids is a business he controls. Thornhill enters the room and recognizes Sava, who previously destroyed Clive. Amir asks him to take his time with the manhandling, because the heroine has to talk about everything in detail first. The man tells how his brush was boiled in a deep fryer, and warns that this is a very good way to loosen the tongue. Sava doesn't look scared, however, and warns that she will first get back her earring that Thornhill ripped off, and then she'll straighten everyone out. The heroine immediately proceeds to execute her plan, using all sorts of improvised means. In the end, Sava destroys Thornhill and his partners. Amir admits that he does not remember her father, but is sure that he was not very malleable since he earned his anger. Sawa admits that this character trait is in her DNA. A violent confrontation ensues between Amir and the heroine. Having wounded the man, Sava takes the biggest weapon in the kitchen and pursues him. Amir tries to escape, but the heroine's sweet revenge is still accomplished. Afterwards, a weeping Sava returns home, not knowing that Carl has already visited her house and destroyed all the things that could become evidence for the police. Not finding a picture of her parents, the girl cries and realizes that Oburi was right. Revenge did not bring her happiness and did not banish the terrible past. The heroine clutches an earring in her hands, the last thing she has left to remember her parents by. Meanwhile, Carl stares at Amir, unable to believe it's been accomplished. Reinhag asks the detective to examine the man hiding the evidence. The intelligence agent suggests that Carl has been covering up for some girl obsessed with a thirst for revenge for a long time. Sava wakes up and remembers the face of the man who destroyed her father. Carl reassures her, telling her it's a consequence from the lack of ampules. The man tries to dissuade Sava from looking for a new culprit and warns that the police know a lot, so they need to look for a new hiding place. Angry Carl says that if the heroine is so eager to find out about the secret meeting, she'd better ask Oburi about it. Sawa comes to the guy and he promises to take her to a place. The heroine meets Otis Breedlove and learns the truth. In fact, after the collapse of the banks, chaos ensued. Rich people started buying guns out of control. Otis learned that someone in his unit was doing this. A few days later, his house blew up and his wife and son were hurt. Otis realized that only Sawa's father could have been involved in all of this. However, he had not attacked the man. In fact, the whole tragedy was set up by another policeman who benefited from using Sava for his own purposes. It was none other than Carl. It was he who took the lives of the girl's parents, told about Amir, and got young Sava hooked on ampules. After learning about it, the heroine runs away, not knowing how to cope with the burning truth. Sawa and Oburi, who has come down to her, hear a noise, but do not manage to escape. An armed Carl appears in front of them. An ampule dart flies into Sawa, but Oburi should be much less lucky. Otis, who has escaped from the house, wounds Carl, and the latter retaliates repeatedly. Sawa rediscovers an additional truth. But in fact, it was not her father who stole the weapon, but Carl himself, which is why he decided to destroy the man. Carl believes that he has redeemed himself by clearing the streets of criminals. However, Sawa reminds him that he is responsible for their appearance. Carl in turn says that he took care of the heroine by paying his debt to her father, after which he leaves. Sawa pursues him, and the man offers to run what's left of Amir's empire together. The heroine keeps Carl alive, but injects a bunch of ampules into him so that the detectives never learn her name. Sawa and Oburi come to visit Nina, who has been saved from a terrible fate. The heroine finally remembers her mother, her friendship with Oburi, and the gold-colored kite she has seen so often from the window. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie, and see you in new videos.